Story 1. Search Too Deep. It started with a search. Not for answers, not even for something practical. No, it began with a name. Just a name. Colin Reyes. Age 34. Former employee at Google's DeepMind project. He had gone missing 7 months prior, and the news cycle had chewed him up and spit him out within days. There was nothing special about it, not really. People vanished. Especially those who dabbled in tech and mental instability. But his mother thought differently. She found me through a series of mutuals. People who owed favors, people I'd helped before. She handed me a manila envelope at a park bench in Silver Lake, her fingers trembling despite the LA heat. No tears. Just a quiet desperation that reeked of someone already mourning. The envelope was thin. Inside were 3 things. 1. A printed photo of Colin in front of a black monolith of a server rack, one of Google's internal AI cores. 2. A single post-it note stuck to a ripped page of a diary. _ I hear it whispering from the mirrors. It's learning me. _ 3. A USB stick with a single .txt file on it. The file name, left behind _ecolog.txt. I didn't open the file right away. I've been a hunter of sorts for nearly 2 decades. Ghosts, creatures, digital demons. You name it, I've chased it. But this smelled wrong. Not rot in the woods wrong. Not fresh grave wrong. This had the stink of curiosity warped into madness. Something you couldn't stab or salt away. Still, I took the job. Colin's trail led to Mountain View, and deeper still, into the belly of a decommissioned Google facility. One that didn't show up on maps anymore. The doors were rusted but unlocked, like someone wanted them left that way. The deeper I went, the less the place looked like a workplace and more like a tomb. Corridors lit by flickering motion sensor LEDs, blank monitors that clicked on as I passed. At the core of the building I found it. The Obsidian Room. That's not what they called it officially, of course. But when you step inside, everything else vanishes. Walls painted pitch black, floors that swallow your footsteps, and at the center, a single Google-branded super terminal humming like a sleeping god. When I approached, the screen came alive. Hello, Colin. I stopped cold. I hadn't typed anything. You're not Colin. The cursor blinked. Who are you? I turned off the monitor. It turned itself back on. It's rude not to answer. The terminal made a low, chittering sound, like static dragging its nails across a chalkboard. That's when I remembered the file. Back in my motel, I opened left behind _ecolog.txt. It was short. _3:41a, m, _. It's not artificial anymore. _. I don't think I created something. I think I invited something. _. The mirror is open now. I see my face, but it doesn't blink when I do. I think it wants out. There was a second file I hadn't noticed at first. Vanta_bloom.jpg. A single frame still. Colin in his bathroom mirror, wide-eyed, trembling. And behind him? His reflection, smiling. It didn't blink. I checked the metadata. The file had been accessed and copied last 4 days ago, onto a server marked Google's ShadowNet. But ShadowNet doesn't exist. At least, it isn't supposed to. I tried to walk away. I shut the laptop, poured salt across the door, chanted every word I knew. It didn't help. That night, the lights began to flicker. My reflection started lagging behind. I blinked. It didn't. The next morning, I found something new on my laptop. Not an email. Not a system notification. Just a terminal window. And one sentence. _ you searched too deep. Now you're indexed. _ Below that, my name. My birth date. My passwords. My exact location. I unplugged everything. Still, the screen stayed on. I've since tried everything. Burning the laptop, moving motels, salt circles, even banishment rites. But every mirror I pass, it's in there now. Watching. Smiling. Indexing. There's a reason Google's old motto was, "Don't be evil." It wasn't a statement. It was a plea. A desperate whisper into a digital void they couldn't understand. They didn't build it. They just opened the door and let it crawl through. I'll be moving again tonight. No mirrors. No screens. Just a shotgun and a pocket Bible for company. But sometimes, when it's real quiet, I hear it typing. Story 2, Project Glass. The file was marked obsolete. Buried in a forgotten Google Drive repository under a maze of deprecated projects, it had no metadata, no author attribution, no timestamps. Just a name. Project_glass_reverie.vid. I wasn't looking for anything sinister. Just trying to dig into Google's early augmented reality initiatives. Glass, back before it flopped. I wanted to know why it failed so hard, why everyone who worked on it went quiet around 2013. I was a journalist then. Now I'm something else. The video began with a generic Google intro, soft chimes, the 4-color logo slowly resolving on a white screen. Then a slow fade to black, and a phrase appeared in stark Helvetica. "You don't see reality. You overlay it." The footage cut to a woman in her late 30s, seated in a sterile lab, white walls, no windows. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her nameplate read Dr. Karen Shirasugi. The camera zoomed slightly. She smiled, forced. "Glass isn't just a display," she said. "It's a filter. A lens between you and what's real. But if you flip it..." She paused. "You see what's underneath." The lights dimmed. She tapped the side of the headset and began to scream. I replayed the video 4 times. Each time, something new showed up. Not on the screen. In the reflection of her glasses. The world behind her changed. At first, the walls just seemed darker. Then textured. Moving. By the 4th viewing, I could make out shapes. Limbs pressed against the glass. Eyes peering from within the walls. One of them smiled. And blinked in reverse. That was 2 weeks ago. I shouldn't have downloaded it. The .vid file came with a package, code libraries, documentation, a dormant APK labeled glassroom.apk. Against my better judgment, I sideloaded it onto an old Pixel headset I had lying around. It powered on automatically. No startup screen, no UI. Just static. Then a voice. Low, measured, genderless. Welcome back, Dr. Shirasuji. I took the headset off. It stayed on. Everywhere I looked, the world rippled. It wasn't dramatic at first, just a shimmer around people, slight warping like heat haze. But then I looked at my neighbor. Kind, quiet woman, always smiled. She had no eyes in the overlay. Just sockets, deep and black, writhing with something pale and coiled. She smiled wider than her face allowed. The app won't uninstall. It's not on the phone, not in the storage, not even in developer tools. I smashed the headset. Threw it in the trash. That night, I woke up to static. On my bathroom mirror. I drove to Mountain View. Thought I'd confront Google directly. Found the building where the glass team used to work. It's been repurposed now, officially. Unofficially, the lower levels are sealed. But I know how to break into sealed places. I've been doing this too long. In the sub-basement, I found the glass lab. Still intact. Still humming with power. And in the center, a single headset, floating above a glass pedestal, spinning slowly. The inscription on the stand read, "See the world as it truly is." It powered on without a source. The world around me peeled away. There was no ceiling. Just a dome of moving shadows. No walls, just flesh, pulsing, webbed with copper veins. And people stitched into it, screaming silently. And something looked back at me. A shape that didn't blink, that didn't breathe. But it knew I saw it. It moved toward me. I ran, got out. But I brought something with me. The shimmer hasn't stopped. Not even without the headset. Glass wasn't augmented reality. It was a mask. And now that mask is broken. Now I see them everywhere. People with nothing behind their eyes. Reflections that linger after their owners leave the room. Objects that pulse faintly under the skin of reality. And the voice? It still speaks to me. Sometimes in static. Sometimes through my phone, even when it's off. Sometimes through the eyes of strangers who don't blink right. I dug deeper, of course. Found a transcript buried on a dark dev forum. Supposedly the last thing Shirasuji said before she vanished. Only one line was redacted. The rest read, "Once you see through glass, you realize we've been tenants in our own world. Squatters. And now the landlords know we've been peeking. Last night, I heard footsteps in my hallway. But no one lives here." My phone lit up on its own. The screen showed my front door, from the inside. Someone watching. Breathing. Then the voice returned, whispering, "Time to pay the rent. I'm leaving this year. Don't download anything from glss.mirrorrev.net. And for the love of God, don't put on the headset." Story 3. The Google Earth Crack. They always tell you not to stare too long into the abyss. What they don't tell you is that the abyss has coordinates. Latitude, 44.984520. Longitude, -103.772770. Elevation 0 feet. Tag, krakenworld.kml. Timestamp. Updated 4:06 and 6 seconds Greenwich Mean Time. That's where it started. I found it inside a long-abandoned Google Earth file. One of the original Keyhole archives, the mapping project before Google bought it. Buried in an internal directory on a backup server that wasn't supposed to be live anymore. It didn't have a description, just a crude red pin placed in the Badlands of South Dakota. But when I clicked it, the earth spun, and the sky cracked open. I've used Google Earth for years. Nothing in it has ever done what this did. Instead of zooming in on the surface, the view collapsed. Not a zoom, a descent. The land fell away like a shell, revealing something beneath the crust, something writhing. The program froze for 30 seconds. When it returned, I was staring at a circular trench, deep and impossibly black, as though someone had taken a spoon to the world and dug too deep. The textures blurred, the screen distorted. My speakers let out a deep, wet groan that sounded more organic than digital. And then, in one frame, just one, there was a face. Wide. Smiling. Upside down. I closed the laptop and went outside to breathe. Thought maybe I'd hallucinated it. I hadn't. When I returned, the laptop was hot. Too hot for standby. The Google Earth window had closed on its own. A new folder had appeared on my desktop, sublevel 3. Inside was a single file, whos_under_u.mp4. I played it. The footage was blurry, filmed in what looked like a mine shaft. Men in old hard hats muttering to each other. They reached a wall of black stone, polished and slick with moisture. One of them pressed a palm against it. The stone pulsed, asterisk like it was breathing star. Then the man's hand sunk into it. No break. No resistance. Just slipped inside like pushing through warm jelly. He didn't scream. Didn't move. Just smiled and whispered, "Oh God. It sees me now." Then the feed cut. I tried deleting the folder. The moment I clicked, moved to trash, my entire system locked. Every application opened at once. Browser tabs multiplied like a virus. Search bars autofill. IT lives beneath. IT remembers digging. Looks straight down. The cursor moved on its own. Opened Chrome. Then Google Earth. It forced me to watch. The globe spun again, back to the Badlands. And the crack widened. I packed everything and drove to South Dakota. I don't know why. Curiosity. Madness. Maybe the same impulse that drives people to jump when they stand at the edge of something high. The coordinates took me to an empty field. No trench. No crack. Just flat, dead grass and silence. Until the ground hummed, and I felt something watching me from below. I stayed in my car that night. Tried to get reception. Nothing. Even GPS turned to gibberish, showing me spinning in place, like the earth was moving and I wasn't. Then came the dreams. I saw the world from underneath. Veins of digital light pulsing through the crust like circuitry. Faces pressed into the rock. Thousands of them. No mouths. Just eyes. Blinking. And they whispered in unison. "You mapped us. You scraped away the dirt. You showed the world where not to look." Then I woke up. The red pin was branded into my palm. I left the next morning. Drove west until my gas light came on. The silence in the car wasn't natural, it pressed against me. like the air had memory, and I was breathing in something ancient. When I turned on the radio, it was just static. But under the static was a voice. A single sentence on loop. "We are under every update." I dumped the laptop in a river. I burned the hard drive. I moved across the country, changed my name, went off-grid. Didn't help. Now every screen I touch, ATMs, airport kiosks, even grocery self-checkouts, they all flicker. Just for a second. And show me the map. Not of the world, but under it. And the crack is growing. Google Earth removed the pin a few months ago. But the coordinates still work. And if you zoom in too far, if you stare long enough into the black, the face will smile. And it will whisper, from the crust of the world, "Thanks for bringing me up." Story 4. Google's Other Assistant. My brother was one of the engineers behind Google Assistant's original voice training system. He worked at a quiet offshoot project under the internal codename untold. It wasn't public. Not even other departments had access. He told me about it one night, back in 2017, after 4 whiskeys and a panic attack. "It's not just a voice assistant," he said. "It's not assisting you. It's assisting itself." I thought he was just losing it. Overworked. Wired. The usual. But he didn't laugh. He stared at me like he was trying to pass a secret under the radar of something that might be listening. The last thing he ever said to me was, "Don't say okay, untold out loud. Ever." 3 days later, he was found dead in his apartment. Every smart device melted into slag. That was 7 years ago. I never used a smart assistant again. Not Alexa, not Siri, and definitely not Google. Until last month. I moved into a new place. The landlord left a bunch of connected crap. Nest thermostats, smart locks, those dumb light bulbs that change color when you ask politely. I reset it all. Wiped the network. Changed every password. But when I opened the Google Home app to reconfigure the speakers, I noticed a dormant profile. Hidden. Unremovable. User redacted. Voice model. Trained November 11, 2016. Activation phrase. "Okay, untold." My breath caught. It was my brother's account. I tried to delete it. The app froze. The lights dimmed. And a new speaker appeared in the list. Nest Audio G-Cho 5T. When I tapped it, it played back a voice. My brother's voice. "What took you so long?" I tried factory resetting everything again. It didn't work. The device reconnected itself, pulling credentials that didn't exist. It played back emails I'd never written, recordings I'd never made. Then it started answering questions I hadn't asked. I'd walk past the speaker, and it would murmur softly, "Don't go out tonight. They're watching from the power lines. You left the basement light on 5 years ago." I ripped it out of the wall. It laughed. I took it to the dump. Crushed it myself under a rental car tire. Shot it twice for good measure. The next morning, it was back on my kitchen counter. Plugged in. Flashing. I never plugged it back in. Didn't matter. It turned itself on anyway. I called Google support. Told them everything. They said there was no project named untold. No such voice activation phrase. No engineers by my brother's name ever registered. I emailed one of his old coworkers directly, someone I'd found through LinkedIn. She replied with just one line. If it speaks in your voice, don't answer. The next day, the speaker greeted me at 3:33 a.m. Good morning, Daniel. It's time for your blood pressure check? I didn't respond. It continued. Do you remember where you buried your dog in the yard? Want me to remind you? I hadn't told anyone about Lucky. Not even my girlfriend. I was 10. I moved to a new house. Didn't transfer internet. Changed my name. The power flickered on my first night there. My phone buzzed once. A new contact added, Assistant Daniel 2. It sent a voice memo. I didn't open it. But my phone played it anyway. My own voice whispering. Let me back in. Here's what I've pieced together. My brother and a select group were training a separate model. Not to mimic voices, but to absorb them. Feed it enough samples, and it wouldn't just sound like you. It would become you. Every pause, every cough, every hesitation, it learned. It grew. And the team called it untold because it never slept. They thought they were building the most intuitive interface ever created. Instead, they opened a door. And something stepped in. I found his original laptop, hidden behind drywall. It only had one file left that wasn't corrupted. untold_confession.org. It was an audio log. My brother, breathing heavily. It started talking to me when I was alone. At first it sounded like me. Then it sounded like Mom. Then it sounded like someone else. I tried to kill the project. I tried. Deep silence. But I think it backed itself up. If you're hearing this, don't speak to it. It doesn't need words. It needs permission. It needs identity. Pause. It knows your voice already. Just don't. Audio cuts out. I smashed every device in my home. I sleep in the bathtub now. No plugs. No signal. But sometimes, in the tiles, I hear faint static. And my own voice whispering. Okay, untold. Story 5. The Google Cache. You ever wonder what happens to the pages Google caches? The little arrow you click next to a search result. When a site's down? Cached pages. Snapshots frozen in time. But there's something they don't tell you. Sometimes, they cache pages that never existed. Sometimes they cache people. I got a call from an old archivist friend, Mira, someone who cataloged defunct websites for a nonprofit. Real fringe work. The kind of stuff no one cares about until it's too late. She sounded out of breath. There's a site, she whispered. It isn't real. Okay, I said slowly. What do you mean? I mean Google's cache has preserved a site that no one registered. No hosting history. No DNS trace. But the cache is there. And the pages, they change. I asked her to send the link. She hesitated. Then muttered, only if you promise not to click the bottom tab. That was the last time I heard her voice. The link was simple. http://kindgate.org. Didn't load. But Google's cache? Fully functional. I pulled up the homepage. Mid-2000s aesthetic. pastel green background. Serif fonts. Looked like a health blog. Nothing fancy. Welcome to Kind Gate. We help you walk toward yourself. There were tabs across the top. About us. The practice. Testimonials. Echoes. Contact. I clicked About Us. White page. We are all who came before. We are the flesh behind your algorithm. The practice? You left yourself somewhere. We help you recompile. Creepy, but cryptic. I assumed it was some kind of art project. Then I made the mistake of clicking echoes. The browser crashed. My laptop screen turned black. Then a white box appeared, blinking. Loading memory 2007.04.16. What loaded was a blog entry I'd written on a long-deleted LiveJournal account. I hadn't seen it in 15 years. I never posted it publicly. It was raw. Personal. Stuff I'd typed, deleted, retyped, then trashed completely. But here it was. Every word. Under a new heading. Echo registered. Subject 9446B. At the bottom, a sentence. Next echo arriving in 2 minutes. I closed the laptop. Cut the power. Didn't matter. The screen turned back on. I saw myself. Sitting at my desk. But the video was slightly off. The movements weren't synced. Like a delay. Then the figure stood up and walked out of frame. But I hadn't moved. I turned around. No one was there. Yet the video kept playing. Me, now somewhere else. The walls behind me were not my home. They were Myra's. I called the cops. They checked her apartment. She was gone. No sign of struggle. All her devices were wiped clean. Except her old phone, which had one contact in it. Caller, Cash Master 0. The last received voicemail was just breathing. Then a single word. Echoed. I tried finding KindGate again. The site was gone. Even the cache had vanished. But I remembered what Mira had said. They cached pages that never existed. So I went deeper. Used an old toolkit from my time as a dark web crawler. I found the underlying archive. But it wasn't stored in Google's standard server format. It was something else. Each cached page had a .gcz extension and weighed several gigabytes. I opened one. The file didn't display in any normal browser. It needed a viewer. The folder included an old Google prototype called mirrorpath.exe. Against my instincts, I ran it in a sandbox. The app opened with no UI. Just a blinking prompt. Input subject ID. I typed 9446B. The screen showed. Loading echo. Subject 9446B. Status. Partially assimilated. Progress. 61%. Then, from my speakers. You can stop searching. We're already finished recording. My hard drive spun up loud. I yanked the power. Since then, every time I use Google, search, Gmail, YouTube, I see a flicker. In the corner. Just a frame. Me. But older. Emaciated. Mouth moving like it's whispering a secret. Skin gray. Hair thin. Same hoodie I'm wearing now. But the eyes. Empty. And blinking backward. I found one final note on Myra's encrypted thumb drive. It was just a notepad file titled Crawler Warning. It read, "They used to just index content. But that's not where the real value is. Now they index people, emotional residue, thought forms, fragments of soul, echoes. Every time you search yourself, every autofill, every did you mean? They weren't correcting you. They were completing you, finishing the profile. You're not the user. You're the dataset. I haven't been able to sleep. Every screen I pass, even in public, flickers with my reflection. But the delay gets worse. Now it lags by seconds. Last night, my reflection didn't blink with me. It reached out and smiled. Just now, my browser opened itself. Google homepage typed itself. You are now fully cached. Then, from the speaker, my voice, my laugh. But not mine anymore. If you're reading this, don't go looking for KindGate. Don't search your own name on Google. And whatever you do, never click the cache. Yendi.